Hey everyone, it's Mike Hughes from Lord of Minis at Lord of Minis on Instagram. Today we are going to jump in the Wayback Machine with a technique I learned when I was first starting to paint miniatures. How to paint wood. This tutorial will be for beginners, but if you're an advanced painter and want to sit and listen to my voice, I just want you to know I love you too. This miniature from Games Workshop is a battlefield marker and contains wood textured pieces. This tutorial is specifically for textured wood. I'll create an advanced tutorial later that will tackle how to paint wood on any surface. We're going to start with our buff color from Vallejo. This is the color buff and not Arnold buff. So if you came to see Arnold in his prime, I'm afraid you found the wrong video. We're going to apply this over our black primer. And as you can see, we're going to need a couple of coats. This is what the first coat looks like here. We're going to need maybe one more coat, but don't worry about letting some of the black through. It won't matter too much because we're going to add some washes over the top. This is what it should be looking like after a couple coats. Next, we're going to take pale sand from Vallejo, and we're going to take a dry brush, which is essentially a flat, stiff brush that has a lot of surface area to it, which means it's a wider brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to load that brush with the pale sand. And then after the brush is fairly loaded with the pale sand, we're going to take the majority of that paint off of the brush by using a paper towel and wiping the paint onto the paper towel. The little paint that's left on the brush, we're going to just draw over the raised surfaces of the model. So you're going to see the wood texture starting to pop with this lighter pale sand color. We want to make sure that we get all the edges and all the texture. The pale sand is really starting to draw out the texture. Next, we're going to take this wash from Citadel called Rein Flesh Shade. You can see the consistency here. The wash has pigment in it, but it's very liquidy. It's very translucent. And like a baby with a birthday cake, we're just going to smear it all over the wood areas we just painted. We're going to let the wash settle into the recesses of the textured areas in the wood. And in the video, you can see how watered down this is. You can see the actual sheen of light coming off of it. But if I turn it here a little bit, you can kind of see where it's falling into the recesses. You're going to cover the entire wood area with one coat. This is what the wash looks like dried. So you can see that it has gone into the recesses, but it's actually colored the buff color from earlier. And you can see that there's areas that are kind of missed. There's areas of the shade that kind of accumulated into one little puddle. That's fine for right now. You don't have to be incredibly accurate at this point. We're going to go back with our dry brush, and we're going to take the buff color, again, taking about that much, and we're going to go over what we just did, hitting all the raised surfaces again with buff to draw out the lighter colors. And you can use any edge of the dry brush you want. There's no specific way to use it. However you can get in all the little nooks and crannies. So you can see we're getting some detail now into the wood. It's starting to kind of look like wood. We're going to do this several times now, back and forth, until we get a texture that we like. Next, we're going to take another wash from Citadel called Sarapin Sepia. This will be our next coat. And you can see again, this is even lighter than the last wash. It's kind of a more yellow, a more lighter yellow wash. And again, we're going to put it over the entire piece again. And as you can see, we're going kind of back and forth with washes and dry brush, washes and dry brush. This is to add depth to our wood. And now you could use any sort of wash you want for any different type of colored wood you'd want to create. It doesn't have to be this sort of, I don't know what you would call this sort of like aged oak type yellow wood. You could go for a more orange wood. This is what the Sarapin Sepia looks like dried. And you can see really the texture is starting to really come out. Now when we go back with our dry brush, we're going to pull up some of those raised surfaces and make the raised surfaces pop a little bit more. But you can see the depth starting to happen here. We're going to go back in with our dry brush again with the buff color, taking it off on our paper towel. And we are going to go over the raised surfaces again. You're going to see all that detail being pulled back into focus on the wood here. I'm hitting some of the metal pieces too, and although I'm going to repaint those metal pieces, it's not dissimilar from actually making them look metal. We're sort of dry brushing over those metal pieces, and it actually doesn't look that bad. So if you keep going over all of these raised surfaces, you're going to see we're really drawing out a lot of the detail now, giving the wood a lot of depth, and you can see the outcome of that. Really starting to look good. You can see the darker areas towards the metal pieces. What I'm thinking is where those metal pieces attach to the wood, there might be more water collecting in those areas. So the wood might be starting to rot or darken around those areas. So I'm going to keep it lighter in the center, and then just be mindful of where those darker areas might appear, where the wood might be aging a little faster than some of the other areas. So this is where we're at. It's pretty convincing. Looks like wood. We've gone through a few different shades and dry brushes. Looking pretty good. So we have one more shade we're going to use here, EGX Earth Shade from Citadel. This is a darker shade. We're going to use this for some of the areas on the wood that might be rotting a little bit more. So we're going to go into the corners and around some of the metal pieces. We're just going to dot it in. We actually might need to add a little bit more than, you can see it kind of pooling there. We need to add a little bit more than normal. We can kind of load it into those recesses where the wood is connecting there. I'm thinking that's where the wood would be rotting or weathering the most, where the water would be collecting the most. That's the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful, and if it wasn't, there is simply nothing in this world that pleases you. We'll see you all next time, everyone. Thanks for watching.